Episode 1, The Night Shift Spark. The city outside Alexis Cole's 33rd floor office pulsed with light, a concrete galaxy of blinking windows and taxi headlights. Midnight had long since passed, but Alexis, clad in a tailored navy pantsuit and exhaustion, was only just wrapping up the deposition files for the Darnell divorce case. She cursed under her breath as she realized she'd left a critical folder downstairs in the conference room. The office was supposed to be empty. It always was this late. So when the elevator doors opened to the faint sound of pages turning, Alexis paused. Down the dimly lit hallway, a soft yellow glow spilled from the break room. She stepped in quietly, heels clicking, presence commanding. There, sitting on the worn leather couch, was the janitor. Not cleaning. Reading. A paperback rested in his hands like it belonged there. To Kill a Mockingbird. He looked up, startled. But not embarrassed. His eyes met hers, warm, steady, unreadable. "Didn't expect company," he said with a calm smile. She arched a brow. "Didn't expect to find Harper Lee in the hands of someone scrubbing tile grout for a living." He chuckled. "Convictions and class don't determine taste. Thought a lawyer might know that." Her mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Not quite irritation either. "I'm Alexis Cole," she said, because even now, she couldn't help leading with her name like a business card. "I know," he replied. "You're the shark on the 33rd. Everyone knows." "I know." A silence hung, charged, curious. She broke it first. "Next time, maybe clean the couches before the reading hour." "Noted," he said. But his grin didn't fade. She left with her file, but not before glancing back once. Just once. The next morning, Harper sat at the kitchen island, swinging her legs and playing with her cereal. "Mommy?" she asked suddenly. "Who's the nice man with the warm eyes?" Alexis froze, coffee cup halfway to her lips. "What man?" "The one at your office. He helped me fix my unicorn's leg last week. He didn't talk much, but he smiled a lot. I liked him." Alexis didn't reply. But later that day, as she passed the break room again, she noticed the paperback, left face down, page folded. And for the first time in a long while, she felt curious. Episode 2, Crumbling Walls. The courtroom had been brutal. Alexis stood alone in the firm's private lounge, her heels off, her silk blouse clinging to her spine with cold sweat. Across from her, floor-to-ceiling windows blurred the New York skyline, all hard lines and indifference. Just like her, she told herself. But inside, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The Dawson custody case had hit too close to home. The father's desperation. The child's confusion. The way the mother's lawyer had weaponized her career against her, a narrative Alexis herself had fought off not so long ago. She reached for a glass of water, but her hand knocked it off the table. It shattered. From the doorway came a voice, steady, low. "Don't move. Noah." She hadn't heard him come in. He crossed the room silently, broom in hand, crouched beside the glass like it wasn't a metaphor for her state of mind. "You okay?" he asked gently, eyes flicking to hers. Alexis wanted to lie. She always lied. But tonight, she was tired. And her armor, polished and impenetrable, had hairline cracks. "I'm fine," she muttered. He gave her a look that said he didn't believe her, but wouldn't press. Still crouched, he spoke softly. "I cleaned the courtroom once. After hours. The judge leaves coffee rings all over the bench. Like it's any other desk." She blinked. "Why are you telling me that?" "Because it's easy to forget they're just people. Judges. Clients. Lawyers. But you bleed like the rest of us." That hit her. Harder than she expected. She sat down slowly. The silence stretched between them, thick but not uncomfortable. She realized she didn't have to fill it. He wasn't looking at her like she was broken. He wasn't looking through her either. "I almost lost custody of my daughter," she said suddenly, surprising even herself. "My ex. He said I cared more about my career than Harper. That I was too cold. Too focused. And maybe he wasn't completely wrong." Noah looked at her with something close to tenderness. "You're not cold, Alexis. You're surviving. A beat. Then, you love your daughter like it's the only thing holding you together. That's not cold. That's brave." She turned her face away, blinking fast. No one had ever said that to her before. And for the first time in a long, long while. She wanted to be seen again. Episode 3, Background Check. Alexis sat alone in her office, lit only by the glow of her dual monitors. Court transcripts scrolled across one screen, but her eyes weren't on them. They were on him, Noah Reyes. Or rather, The digital file she'd pulled on him an hour ago. She hadn't meant to dig. She told herself it was due diligence, her daughter had met him, after all. But truthfully? She wanted to know why a man who read classic literature and spoke like he'd seen too much was mopping her floors at midnight. Her cursor hovered over the mugshot. The conviction. Assault and obstruction of justice. Then the next document, overturned on appeal. Evidence suppressed. Witness recanted. Wrongfully convicted. Former teacher. No prior incidents. Years of his life, gone. She leaned back, jaw clenched, feeling something she didn't like, guilt. Later that night, she caught him by the service elevator, cart half filled with cleaning supplies. "Noah," she called, voice sharp from nerves she didn't understand. He turned, surprised. "Miss Cole." She held out the file folder, printed pages of his record. "I looked you up." His face didn't flinch. He didn't take the folder. "I figured," he said. Calm. Resigned. "I had to make sure my daughter was safe," she added, like armor. He nodded once. "And what did you decide?" She hesitated. "I'm not sure yet." Noah stepped forward, gently took the folder from her hands, and looked down at it. Then at her. "You know, I used to believe in the system too," he said softly. "I taught kids to trust it. To play fair. To be good. Then I spent 4 years in a cell because a cop needed a promotion more than he needed the truth." Alexis swallowed, throat suddenly dry. "I didn't do it," he continued, voice firmer now. "But I'm still the guy who can't get a job doing what he loves. So I mop floors for people who wouldn't hire me to teach their kids. People like you." That one landed. She looked away. But he wasn't angry, just tired. Honest. Before he turned to go, he added, "You can keep the file, Alexis. But if you want to know who I really am, you'll have to ask. Not Google it." He left her standing there, folder in hand, heart unexpectedly heavy. And for the second time, she realized she might have underestimated him. Episode 4, The Elevator Incident. It was a late Thursday evening, and the building was nearly empty, except for 2 souls moving through their own kinds of silence. Alexis stepped into the elevator, tapping the button for the lobby. Her briefcase hung heavy in her hand, her body tenser than usual. She hadn't seen Noah in 3 days, not since she'd handed him that folder and heard him speak truths that still echoed in her ears. As the doors began to close, a hand shot through. The metal yawned open again. Noah stepped in, quiet, carrying his cleaning cart. His brow arched slightly when he saw her. "Evening." She nodded, lips tight. "Working late again?" "Only way I get to see the city shine," he replied. The elevator lurched downward. Then it stopped. The lights flickered once. Then dimmed to emergency mode. Alexis frowned, hit the call button. No response. "Of course," she muttered. "Of course. Well," Noah said, leaning against the wall, "I guess we're stuck." She sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "This is ridiculous. You don't like being still, do you?" She glanced at him. "No, I don't. I have better things to do than sit in a metal box." "I don't mind it," he said. "Being stuck, I mean. Sometimes stillness tells you things movement can't." She folded her arms. "That's very poetic. Did you learn that before or after prison?" He didn't flinch. "Both." A pause. She closed her eyes. "That was unfair." "It was honest," he said quietly. "Even if it was a little sharp." She turned toward him, arms still folded, but something softer in her voice. "You confuse me." "I get that a lot," he said with a half smile. Another long pause. Then, "Why do you mop floors when you talk like someone who used to teach philosophy?" He met her eyes. "Because no one wants to hire an ex-con to teach their children. And because I still believe in showing up. Even if no one claps." That got to her. The silence was different now. Heavy with something else. The kind of silence that thrums between 2 people who don't want to admit what they feel. She stepped closer without thinking. "Inches away now." "You're not like anyone I've met before," she whispered. He looked at her like she was a riddle and a revelation. "Neither are you." Their eyes locked. He leaned in slightly. So did she. The moment teetered on the edge, then just as her breath caught, the elevator jolted to life. They pulled apart, both startled. Noah looked away first, the moment shattered like glass. As the door slid open at the lobby, Alexis walked out without saying a word. But her heart? It stayed in that elevator. Episode 5, The Daughter Bond. Rain drizzled against the tall windows of Harper's Elementary School as Alexis rushed into the nurse's office, hair damp, heels clicking, her expression laced with panic. She'd missed 3 calls from the school. Harper had spiked a fever and had thrown up during art class. Alexis had been in a client consult and hadn't heard the phone buzz. She pushed open the office door, and froze. There, sitting beside a tiny cot, was Noah. He looked up, surprised to see her. Harper lay curled beneath a cartoon blanket, her tiny hand in his. "She wouldn't let go," he said gently, rising to his feet. "Said she didn't want to be alone." Alexis blinked, still catching up. What are you doing here?" "I was subbing at the school today," he explained. "Custodian's out for the week." I recognized her. She was scared. Alexis's eyes flicked to Harper. Her daughter's cheeks were flushed, but she was awake now, her voice soft. "Mommy. Mr. Noah told me jokes so I wouldn't cry. He said I was a warrior." Alexis's heart clenched in her chest. Noah offered a small smile. "She is. Even sick, she's got more fight than most adults." Alexis lowered herself beside the cot, brushing a curl from Harper's damp forehead. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For staying." He shrugged. Didn't feel right to leave her. There was a long pause. The air was warm and still. Alexis glanced over at him. "I didn't expect you here," she said, her voice lower now. "Neither did I," he said. "But maybe that's the point." She looked away, afraid of how natural it all felt, how easily he fit in the chair beside her daughter, how his presence calmed the storm she usually had to weather alone. After a moment, Harper fell back asleep, and Alexis stood slowly. Noah followed. "You didn't have to do this," she said as they stepped into the hallway. "I know," he replied. "But I wanted to." Alexis met his gaze, warm, steady, familiar. The same look Harper had described. And for the first time, the wall around her heart didn't just crack. It shifted. Episode 6, Lunches and Lies. It started with an email Alexis never intended to send. Subject line, "Lunch?" No greeting. No signature. Just that one word. And when she hit send, she immediately regretted it. But 15 minutes later, she got a reply. From Noah Reyes. Subject, lunch? Message. "Same time I always mop the 12th floor break room. Bring your appetite. Not judgment." The next afternoon, Alexis walked into the break room in her tailored gray sheath dress, heels echoing like punctuation. She carried 2 paper bags from a cafe no one in the building would ever expect her to be seen at. Noah stood by the window, sleeves rolled up, rag in one hand. When he saw her, he straightened. "I assumed you were joking," he said. "I don't joke," she replied, setting the bags down. "I control narrative." "Well, this should be interesting." They sat across from each other at the tiny table, feet brushing under the surface. She handed him a sandwich without looking at him. He took it slowly, like it might bite. The first few minutes were quiet. Just chewing, glances, the hum of a soda machine. Then he broke it. "Why me?" She blinked. "Excuse me? You could eat lunch with anyone. Or no one. But you chose me." "Why?" Alexis toyed with the edge of her napkin. "Because I don't trust most people." "But you don't pretend to be anything you're not." He tilted his head. "Is that a compliment or a warning?" "I'm not sure yet." They laughed. It was soft. Easy. And suddenly, the world felt a little smaller. A little safer. He told her about a student he once taught who dreamed of being a judge. She told him about her first courtroom win at 26, how she cried in the elevator and swore she'd never let herself feel that much again. When she looked up, he was staring at her differently, not with awe or pity, but with understanding. Respect. Something warm twisted low in her chest. She stood quickly, grabbing her bag. This was a mistake. "Because it felt good?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just left. Across the room, hidden behind a vending machine panel he was fixing, a junior associate named Greg had his phone out. Camera open. Lens aimed. Snap. He smirked to himself, already imagining the gossip. And Alexis? She had no idea the firestorm was coming. Episode 7, The Leak. It started as a whisper. By noon, it was a wildfire. A blurry photo circulated through internal emails and private group chats at the firm. Alexis Cole, the firm's icy queen, the woman who once had a partner fired for using the wrong font, was seen having lunch with the janitor. No context. Just her laughter, his gaze, the unmistakable intimacy of 2 people who'd forgotten the world around them. By 3 p.m., 2 senior partners had expressed concern. One even called it a reputational hazard. Alexis found out the moment she stepped into the 33rd floor conference room and saw a printed copy of the photo on the table. Her name was scrawled across it in red ink. Below it. "Is this who we trust with billion-dollar divorces?" Her stomach dropped. She grabbed the photo, stormed out, heels hitting the floor like gunshots. She found Noah on the 12th floor, wiping down elevator buttons with his usual quiet focus. He looked up, saw the rage in her eyes. "Alexis. Did you take a photo?" She snapped. "What? Did you tell anyone? Show anyone? Say anything?" His brows knit together. "No. Of course not. Then how the hell is the entire firm talking about us?" He straightened, his jaw tight. "I don't know. But I wouldn't do that to you." "You wouldn't?" She shot back. "Because right now, I'm the one being dragged through the mud while you get to keep hiding behind your mop and your tragic backstory." The silence after that was crushing. He stared at her, wounded. "Wow. Noah," she said, breath catching, realizing too late what she'd just done. But he was already backing away. "You're scared, I get that. But don't talk to me like I'm the mistake in your life. I stayed when your daughter was sick. I listened when you needed someone. I kept your secrets. But if protecting your image means tearing me down..." He shook his head. "Then I'm done." He turned and walked out of the hallway, no rush, no dramatics. Just quiet resolve. Alexis stood frozen, the photo still clutched in her hand. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel powerful. She felt alone. Episode 8, The Past Returns. It had been 5 days since Noah walked away. The silence between them stretched like a chasm, neither of them crossed it. Alexis buried herself in work, clawing her way back into the good graces of the firm with brutal efficiency. She was sharper. Colder. Unreachable. Until a name landed on her desk. Detective Raymond Kessler. The lead investigator tied to her new corruption case. His name was on a client call transcript. A man Alexis would be deposing next week. She froze. It wasn't a common name. And she'd seen it before. She pulled Noah's background report from the back of her desk drawer, something she'd meant to throw away, but hadn't. Her eyes flicked to the arresting officer listed. Detective Raymond Kessler. A chill crawled down her spine. Coincidence? She didn't believe in those. That night, Alexis found herself in the quietest corner of the parking garage. Where she knew he'd be. Cleaning the concrete alone, as always. Noah looked up when he heard her heels. "I didn't expect to see you," he said. "I found something," she said, her voice tighter than she meant. He didn't respond, just waited. "Your arrest," she continued. "The detective. Kessler. He's working with Harlow Lexington." Noah's jaw ticked. "Lexington? The client you're defending?" She nodded slowly. "He's involved in a corruption case. Bribes, cover-ups, suppressed records. Kessler was on his payroll." Noah looked away, lips tight. "That's how it happened. That's how I lost my life." Alexis stepped closer. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't think you'd believe me. Because I didn't want you to look at me like a liability." She shook her head, the pieces starting to click. "If this is real. If you were framed as part of Lexington's schemes. Then you're defending the man who destroyed me." Silence stretched between them like wire, tight, dangerous, vibrating with the weight of a shared past neither of them fully understood until now. Noah laughed bitterly. "Guess we were always on opposite sides, huh?" Alexis stepped forward. "Not anymore." His eyes flicked to hers. Searching. Questioning. "But trust, once cracked, doesn't reform in a single breath." "Then prove it," he said softly. "Don't just walk into my world when it's convenient." And then he turned back to his mop. Not dismissing her. But waiting to see if she'd stay. Episode 9, Touch and Go. It happened fast. Noah had just finished his shift. The building was quiet, the city outside draped in rain. He exited through the rear loading dock, hoodie pulled over his head, phone in his pocket buzzing with a message he hadn't read yet. Then, footsteps. Too quick. Too close. Before he could turn, something hard cracked against the back of his skull. A grunt. A blur. Darkness. He collapsed. The rain kept falling. Alexis got the call at 2:14 a.m. a blocked number. A police officer's voice. "We found Mr. Reyes unconscious behind your firm. He listed you as an emergency contact." Her blood ran cold. Within the hour, she was at St. Luke's Hospital, high heels forgotten, trench coat soaked from the storm. She rushed past the nurse's station, her breath short, panic raw and unfamiliar in her chest. She found him in a dimly lit room, still, bandaged, pale. Machines beeped in slow rhythm, the only sign he was still here. She sank into the chair beside him, trembling. "Noah," she whispered. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was the one who broke hearts, not the one left holding pieces of her own. She hadn't cried in years, but the tears came now, hot and silent. "I was angry," she said, her voice breaking. "I pushed you away because you made me feel something. And I didn't know what to do with that." She reached for his hand, cold but steady beneath hers. "You made me feel safe," she whispered. "You saw me. And I never let anyone do that." She leaned closer, her forehead gently resting against the back of his hand. "Come back, please," she said. "Come back to me." Then, without thinking, she lifted his hand and pressed a kiss to his knuckles, soft, reverent, like a promise she hadn't realized she was ready to make. Behind her, monitors kept their rhythm. And though Noah didn't move, something in the room shifted. Like hope had taken a breath. Episode 10, Legal Hearts. The first thing Noah saw when his eyes opened was soft, golden light filtering through the hospital blinds. The second was Alexis, fast asleep in the chair beside him, her head resting awkwardly on her arm, strands of hair falling across her face. He blinked slowly, the pounding in his head dull but steady. His hand moved slightly. And touched hers. She stirred instantly. "Noah?" Her voice cracked, hopeful, trembling. He gave the faintest nod. Her breath caught in her throat, her hand flying to her mouth. Then she laughed, quiet, choked, half in disbelief. "You scared the hell out of me." "You came," he said, his voice rough. "I never left." They looked at each other, everything unsaid suddenly louder than words. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "You almost did." She hesitated, then leaned forward. "I meant what I said. About what you mean to me." "I heard," he said. Every word. Silence stretched, intimate, electric. Her eyes flicked to his lips, and before she could stop herself, she leaned in. Their lips met, soft at first, then deeper. It wasn't perfect or poised, it was aching and honest, born of fear and longing and the weight of what they'd been holding back. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. "Does this mean we're going to complicate everything?" he murmured. She smiled. "It was never simple to begin with." Just then, the door creaked open. Harper stood there in her oversized hoodie, hair in pigtails, eyes wide. "Mommy?" she asked. "Are you kissing Mr. Noah?" Alexis froze. Noah coughed awkwardly, trying to sit up. Alexis rose, brushing her skirt like she could smooth away what just happened. "Harper, sweetheart, we were just—" "Is he gonna live with us now?" Harper asked matter-of-factly. "Because I already told Sparkle he could sleep on the top bunk." Noah blinked. "Who's Sparkle?" "My unicorn," Harper said, as if it were obvious. Alexis groaned softly, covering her face. "God help me." But Noah was smiling, really smiling now. And in that hospital room, something unspoken passed between the three of them. Something that looked suspiciously like family. Episode 11, Broken Trust. It only took one innocent sentence to shatter everything. The following Monday, Harper sat in her colorful classroom, drawing a crayon family portrait, her, Alexis, Sparkle the unicorn. And Noah, with a big smile and mop in hand. Her teacher, Ms. Callahan, leaned over with a gentle smile. "Is that your daddy?" Harper shook her head. "Nope. That's Mr. Noah. Mommy kisses him sometimes, but only when she thinks I'm sleeping." Ms. Callahan blinked. And then she picked up the phone. By noon, the managing partner of Cole and Avery called Alexis into his office. "We've had some troubling reports," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "Your personal life is becoming a distraction." Inside were notes, screenshots, even a letter from a parent on the school board implying misconduct, because a janitor was spending time with the daughter of the firm's most high-profile attorney. "This firm cannot afford another scandal," the partner said. "Fix it, Alexis. Or walk away." Her pulse thundered in her ears as she left the office. Rage. Shame. Panic. All of it churning. She found Noah on the ground floor, watering plants outside the building like nothing had changed. "You talked to her," Alexis snapped. Noah looked up, confused. "Who?" "Harper. She told her teacher everything. Now the entire school thinks we're playing house and I'm under investigation for misconduct." His face darkened. "I never said anything inappropriate. I was kind to your daughter. That's it. She's 6. She doesn't know what's appropriate," Alexis snapped. "And now I might lose my job, everything, because you couldn't just stay in your place." The words left her mouth before she could stop them. Noah stepped back like she'd slapped him. Hurt flickered behind his calm eyes, worse than any argument they'd had. "I see," he said quietly. "You didn't lose your job, Alexis. You gave them the bullets, and now you're aiming them at me." She opened her mouth. Closed it. "I thought we were building something real," he said. "But I was wrong. I was just a risk. A liability. Noah. I'm done being your mistake," he said, stepping away. She watched him walk off, heart pounding, hands trembling. And this time, she didn't try to stop him. Upstairs, her office felt colder than usual. And the silence? It wasn't peaceful. It was punishment. Episode 12, The Secret File. Noah didn't go back to the firm. He took time off from his part-time shifts, stopped answering Alexis's messages, and buried himself in a job at a city library 2 neighborhoods away. Shelving books, breathing in quiet. Trying to forget the look in her eyes when she'd said stay in your place. But the past has a way of resurfacing when you least expect it. It was supposed to be just another quiet afternoon. He was organizing donation boxes when he found it, a sealed envelope inside an old law textbook. Addressed to Noah Reyes, dated 4 years ago. His breath caught. Inside, a copy of an internal memo. Lexington Holdings. Signed by someone he hadn't seen in years. Detective Raymond Kessler. Noah's hands trembled as he read the letter. It detailed a payoff. A direct transfer from Lexington's private account to Kessler's. In exchange for a conviction, his conviction. Fabricated charges. Suppressed evidence. It was all there. Black and white. His name. His stolen future. And a name scrawled at the bottom he hadn't expected, Cole & Avery LLP. Alexis's firm. Not her name, but her firm. Her world. Her battlefield. That night, Alexis was working late when her office door opened. She looked up, and froze. Noah stood there, rain on his jacket, eyes stormy and unreadable. In his hand, the envelope. "I found something," he said, voice low. She took it from him, fingers brushing. As she read, her heart sank. This proves everything." "It's your client," Noah said. "Lexington. He paid to destroy my life. And your firm took his money while it happened." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. "Alexis," he said, "you could use this. Take him down. Clear my name. Maybe even get your soul back in the process." She looked up, pain flickering in her eyes. "If I use this, I burn my career to the ground. Lexington is the firm's golden goose. Taking him down means taking down everything I built." He stared at her. "And if you don't?" She held the folder against her chest. Torn. Shaken. "This is the moment, Alexis," Noah said softly. "The line between who you are and who you're about to become." He turned to leave. But just before the door closed behind him, he added, "I never needed you to save me. I just needed you to believe I was worth the truth." The door clicked shut. And Alexis stood alone, caught between justice and ambition, fear and love. Between the woman she used to be and the woman she still might become. Episode 13, Lines in the Sand. The courtroom was packed. Media perched in the gallery, cameras banned but pens flying. The case was supposed to be routine, a corporate compliance dispute on behalf of Lexington Holdings. But everyone knew, this trial wasn't about paperwork. It was about power. And Alexis Cole had never looked more poised to win. She stood at the defense table in a charcoal suit, heels grounded like stone, face carved in courtroom perfection. Lexington sat beside her, smug and confident, surrounded by his legal army. She was his prized weapon, the closer. Across the aisle, the prosecution prepared their cross. Alexis had already filed 3 objections. Already scored 2 wins. But her heart? Her heart was somewhere else. In her briefcase, tucked beneath a stack of legal pads, was Noah's file. The evidence. The memo. The truth. She hadn't slept. Hadn't eaten. All week, she'd walked through marble hallways like a ghost. Because what came next would either destroy everything she'd built or redeem everything she'd buried. When the judge called for opening arguments, Alexis rose. "Your Honor," she said, her voice steady, "I'd like to request a motion to be heard, off record, in chambers." Murmurs exploded. Lexington leaned toward her. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer. She just stared straight ahead. 20 minutes later, Alexis stood alone before the judge and opposing counsel behind closed doors. Her hands trembled as she placed the sealed envelope on the desk. "This," she said, "is evidence of criminal conspiracy, judicial tampering, and false imprisonment, originating from my own client. The room went silent. "You understand what this means?" the judge asked. "Yes," she said. "You could be disbarred." Alexis nodded. "But someone was destroyed by this," she whispered. "Someone I love." Back in open court, everything had changed. The prosecution stood stunned as the judge read the motion. Lexington's smug expression vanished. Chaos erupted as his counsel scrambled to respond. Alexis didn't wait. She gathered her things, eyes burning but unbowed. As she walked past Lexington, he hissed, "You're throwing away your career for a janitor." She paused just long enough to say, "No. I'm throwing it away for the truth." And with that, she left the courtroom. Out in the hall, the crowd buzzed behind her. Reporters shouted questions. But ahead, at the end of the corridor, Noah waited. His eyes searched hers, cautious, hopeful. "I did it," she said simply. He didn't say anything. Just stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. For once, there was no battle to win. Just a war that finally felt over. Episode 14, All Rise for the Truth. The courtroom was silent. Tense. Waiting. Alexis sat in the gallery, no longer at the defense table. Her name had been stripped from the firm's roster that morning. Her office was already being emptied. Her career, once untouchable, was over. But her eyes weren't on the judge. They were on Noah. He sat in the witness box in a plain suit borrowed from a neighbor, hands folded in front of him. His voice calm. His truth unwavering. "I was a teacher," he began, "before I was an inmate. I taught literature, history, ethics. I believed in the system. I told my students justice was real." He paused. Looked at the jury. "Then I was arrested for something I didn't do. The evidence that could have cleared me was buried. The detective was paid to lie. And the man behind it all, the one who signed the check, was the same man this firm has been protecting for years." A collective murmur moved through the room. The prosecutor stepped forward. "Mr. Reyes, what kept you going?" Noah's eyes flicked to Alexis. "Just for a moment. Hope," he said. "And eventually, her." Gasps echoed softly in the gallery. The judge slammed the gavel once. "Order." But the tone had shifted. When the final evidence was submitted, the memo, the bank records, the signed witness statement, it was undeniable. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty. Lexington was remanded on the spot. Cameras flashed. Reporters stormed the hallway. But Alexis stayed seated, breath shallow, chest full of everything she didn't know how to say. Then Noah turned toward her, walked past reporters, guards, whispers, and stood in front of her like the whole world wasn't watching. "You lost everything," he said gently. She shook her head. "Not everything." He offered his hand. "Walk out with me?" She stared at him, this man the world once dismissed, who now stood taller than anyone in the room. Then she took his hand. And together, they walked past the press, past the courtroom, past the past itself. Step by step. Heart by heart. Toward something neither of them thought they'd ever find again. Freedom. And each other. Episode 15, One Last Clean Sweep. The office was empty. Alexis stood in the center of her old workspace, barefoot on polished floors, staring at the boxes that held the last 12 years of her life. Case files. Awards. Press clippings with headlines like Ice Queen of Litigation and Cole's Crushing Courtroom Wins. She picked up a photo of Harper, the two of them on the beach 2 summers ago. The wind had made her laugh. Noah had taken the picture. A soft knock at the door made her turn. Noah stepped in, wearing jeans, a white button-down, and, just for irony, a janitor's mop in his hand. She blinked. He smirked. "One last clean sweep. Figured I'd make it poetic." She laughed quietly. "You're ridiculous." "I know," he said, stepping closer. "But so are you. You took down a billionaire and burned your law career to the ground for a guy with floor wax on his boots." She stepped closer too. "You weren't just a guy with floor wax on your boots." A pause. Intimate. Unfiltered. He set the mop aside and looked at her, serious now. "I don't want to be a chapter in your redemption arc, Alexis. I want to be the story you choose to write, on purpose." She didn't hesitate. "I already did." Her hand reached for his. Fingers laced. It wasn't grand or dramatic, it was honest. Rooted. Solid. "Are you done running?" he asked. She smiled, soft and sure. "Only if you're walking beside me." They kissed, quiet and certain. Not a beginning, not an ending, but a decision. As they stepped out of the office, Harper ran to greet them in the hallway, Sparkle the unicorn bouncing behind her. Noah scooped her up effortlessly. Alexis locked the office door for the last time. Together, they walked into the elevator, three people who didn't look like they belonged together. But fit perfectly anyway. As the door slid shut, Alexis leaned into Noah's shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's go home."